The storm rolled in at midnight, a bruised sky splitting open over Maplewood Estates, lightning clawing at the horizon. Daniel Harper stood in his driveway, rain soaking his flannel shirt, staring at a neon orange notice duct-taped to his cedar fence. The tape curled in the downpour, but the words screamed loud enough to cut through the thunder. Violation fence height non-compliant. Correct by Friday or face fines. Below it, a sticky note in looping cursive chirped, "Hey Dan, just keeping our neighborhood beautiful. Vi V. Caldwell, president of the Maplewood HOA, self-crowned arbiter of lawn ornaments and mailbox symmetry, had struck again." Daniel's fist tightened around the soggy paper. He'd built that fence with his own hands, every post level, every nail driven true. It was legal, permitted, perfect. But Vi didn't care about facts. She cared about control. And this was war. Daniel hadn't planned to become a neighborhood's reluctant warrior. A structural engineer by trade, he'd spent decades designing bridges that didn't buckle, foundations that didn't crack. Precision was his religion, and when he and his wife, Emily, bought their corner lot in Maplewood 3 years ago, he'd approached homeownership with the same rigor. The fence went up in a weekend 6 feet of cedar, stained a warm chestnut that caught compliments at the block party. The city inspector, a wiry guy named Carl with a clipboard and a thermos, had signed off without a second glance. Even Vi, sipping rose that night, had cooed, "Love the color, Dan. Really ties the yard together." But that was before this special meeting. Daniel had been away for 4 days, Vi citing his daughter in Tucson, coming back with a sunburn, a jar of prickly pear jelly, and a voicemail from his neighbor, Miguel, muttering about HOA nonsense. He hadn't thought much of it until he pulled into his driveway and saw the notice. The sticky note was a taunt, Vi's signature flourish of passive-aggressive venom. He peeled it off, the adhesive Leah V.ing a gummy scar on his fence, and called her that evening, expecting a misunderstanding. Instead, he got a lecture. Per our updated guidelines, Daniel, fences over 5 feet 7 inches are non-compliant. It's nothing personal. We're just preserving Maplewood's aesthetic harmony. Updated guidelines? Daniel's jaw clenched. I never voted on any changes. When did this happen? Vi's voice was syrupy, sharp. We held a meeting last week. You were notified. He hadn't been. Not by email, not by mail, not by the carrier pigeon she probably wished she could use. Digging through his inbox later, he found no thing, no agenda, no minutes, no proof. But Vi didn't need proof. She had power, and she wielded it like a scepter, finding people for untrimmed hedges, measuring basketball hoops with a ruler, once citing a retiree for a non-approved birdhouse. Daniel had laughed off the stories until now. The next morning, he pulled his property records from a fireproof safe in his study. He wasn't a lawyer, but he knew boundaries, literal and figurative. When he'd bought the lot, he'd paid for a survey so detailed it mapped every stump and slope. Why? Because Maplewood's HOA, even before Vi's reign, had a reputation for creative interpretations of property lines. He spread the survey across his dining table, a topographic gospel in black and white, and compared it to the HOA's plat map, downloaded from their clunky website. It took 10 minutes to spot the discrepancy. The HOA's prized walking trail, a winding path of crushed gravel lined with azaleas sliced 8 feet into his backyard. Worse, their utility shed, a squat metal box housing sprinklers and pool pumps, sat entirely on his land. Daniel leaned back, a slow grin spreading. Vi wanted to play ruler? He'd bring a tape measure and a wrecking ball. He didn't confront her right away. Daniel was methodical, a man who double-checked his math before pouring concrete. He printed the survey, cross-referenced county records, and called a friend, Nora, a retired city planner with a knack for untangling bureaucratic knots. She confirmed his suspicions. The HOA was trespassing, and their shed was a legal liability. "You've got them, Dan," she said, her voice crackling with glee. "But tread carefully. People like Vi don't back down, they double down." Nora was right. 2 days later, A certified letter arrived, HOA letterhead gleaming like a royal decree. It accused Daniel of obstructing access to the trail by maintaining his fence, claiming it violated community access rights. The penalty? Due $150 per day until compliance. Daniel laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that startled Emily in the kitchen. Obstructing access? Their trail's on my land. They built it without permission. Emily, ever the peacemaker, set down her coffee mug. Maybe talk to her again? She can't be this unreasonable. She's not unreasonable, Daniel said, folding the letter. She's a tyrant with a clipboard. He filed a formal appeal, citing his permit and survey. Vivian denied it within hours, her email a masterclass in condescension. The board appreciates your input, but the rules are clear. Please adjust your fence promptly to avoid further penalties. He requested a hearing. The next meeting was scheduled conveniently during his daughter's graduation in Tucson. He smelled Vivian's handiwork, her knack for dodging accountability. So he kept building his case, a binder swelling with documents, permits, photos, emails, even a screenshot of the HOA's newsletter, which featured a blurred image of his fence under the headline, "Protecting Our Standards." The newsletter was a tipping point. It didn't just target him, it shamed others, lumping his fence with violations like faded mailboxes and a family's inflatable Santa, still up in March. Daniel wasn't alone anymore. At the mailbox, neighbors started whispering. Miguel, a mechanic with a faded Marine Corps tattoo, showed Daniel a fine for his overly Cybil toolbox in his garage. She measured the damn thing, Miguel growled. Said it was an eyesore. A young couple, Priya and Sam, got slapped with a $50 penalty for Leah VYing a tricycle in their driveway overnight. VY knocked at 7 a.m., Priya said, cradling her toddler. Asked if we understood Section 3.1.9 outdoor clutter. We didn't even know it existed. Daniel's binder grew thicker, a chronicle of petty tyranny. He requested the HOA's vote records on the fence rule. VY and stonewalled, claiming it was internal business. He asked for financials. This in a PDF with pages missing, numbers smudged like a guilty conscience. He started to suspect more than incompetence. Rumors swirled VY's brother-in-law owned a fencing company that had landed 3 HOA contracts in a year. Coincidence? Daniel didn't believe in those. The neighborhood was fracturing. Older residents, loyal to the HOA's promise of order, urged Daniel to compromise. Just lower the fence, said Mrs. Larson, 82, her voice soft but firm. It's not worth the fight. But younger families, fed up with VY's reign, saw Daniel as a spark. At a barbecue, Sam slipped him a beer and said, "Keep going, man. She's been at this too long." Daniel kept going. He hired a lawyer, Kate, a shark in sensible heels who'd handled HOA disputes before. She re-VY'd his binder and whistled. "This is gold, Daniel. They're trespassing, harassing, and their retroactive rule is shaky at best. We can bury them." She drafted a cease and desist, demanding the HOA remove their trail and shed within 30 days or face a lawsuit. Daniel mailed it certified, imagining VY's face as she signed for it. She didn't blink. The next morning, Daniel woke to boots crunching gravel. 2 workers in orange vests were on his side of the fence, raking the trail. "HOA sent us," one said, shrugging. Daniel pointed to his no trespassing sign. "That's private property. Leave." They left, but not before he caught VY's car idling down the street, her silhouette unmistakable. That night, his security camera caught her at 5:47 a.m., measuring his fence with a wheel, her flashlight bobbing like a thief's. Then came the escalation. Emily called him at work, her voice tight. "Dan, someone took down part of the fence." He sped home. A single panel was gone, surgically removed, screws and all. The camera footage was damning. 2 HOA board members, one with a drill, the other holding a flashlight, working at 2 a.m. Daniel called the sheriff, filed a report, and installed floodlights that could blind a pilot. VY's next newsletter called it resident non-cooperation. But the neighborhood was waking up. The HOA's quarterly meeting loomed, a legal requirement via VY, and couldn't dodge. Daniel arrived early, binder under his arm, Kate's number on speed dial. The clubhouse was packed retirees, parents, even a guy live streaming on his phone. Vi Vywine stood at the podium, her lavender blazer crisp, her smile a razor's edge. She opened with a sermon on community pride, then in VY TED comments. Daniel stood. My name's Daniel Harper, Lot 17. I'd like to discuss property lines. The room stilled. He passed out copies of his survey, the trail's path highlighted in red. The HOA's walking trail and shed are on my land. You find me due law, $1,200 for a legal fence while trespassing yourselves. I've got permits, county records, and a lawyer who says you're liable. Vi Vywine's face tightened, but he kept going. Your retroactive rule was passed in a meeting no one knew about. You've harassed neighbors, ignored bylaws, and now you're dismantling private property. I'm GIVYing you one chance to fix this, or I sue. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Vi Vywine tried to cut him off. This isn't the forum, Daniel. But a board member, Clara, a quiet accountant, raised her hand. Let him finish. Daniel did, laying out the fines, the footage, the missing financials. When he sat, a retiree named Hank stood. Vi Vywine fined me for my rose trellis. Said it was too ornate. I've lived here 20 years. Never had a problem till her. Then Priya, voice shaking, she threatened to tow our car because we parked on the street during a birthday party. The dam broke. Neighbor after neighbor stood, airing grievances, fines for toys, for flags, for shrubs. Vi Vy and smile faltered, her knuckles white on her clipboard. Claire spoke next. I move we suspend Vi Vy as president, effective immediately, pending an audit. Gasps. Another board member seconded. Hand shot up. Vi Vy sputtered. This is outrageous. I've given everything to this community. But the vote was clear. She was out. The aftermath was swift. The HOA voided Daniel's fines, issued an apology, and agreed to relocate the trail and shed at their expense. An audit uncovered discrepancies due law $15,000 in consulting fees to Vi Vyn's brother-in-law's company. She tried to rally support, sending emails that went unanswered, starting a petition that died at 3 signatures. Her name became a punchline. Don't Vi Vy me. Daniel watched the trail's demolition from a lawn chair, coffee in hand, while VYing as bulldozers churned. The new board, led by Clara, held open elections. Rules were rewritten with input, not edicts. Neighbors planted gardens, hung lights, lived without fear of pink notices. One morning, Daniel found a note in his mailbox, by Vyn's handwriting. You got what you wanted. Happy now? He tossed in the recycling and built a birdhouse, 6 feet tall, just because he could. Maplewood breathed again. Kids biked, grills sizzled, and Daniel's fence stood proud. Emily joined him on the porch one evening, handing him a lemonade. Worth it? She asked, eyeing the cedar. He grinned. Every nail. HOAs aren't VYL, Daniel would tell you. They're tools meant to build, not break. But tools in the wrong hands become weapons, and Vi Vyn wielded hers like a warlord. Her mistake wasn't rules. It was thinking she was above them. Daniel didn't just win a fight, reminded a neighborhood that power answers to truth, and truth comes with receipts. Somewhere, another Vi Vyn's out there, clipboard ready. But so's another Daniel, binder in hand, waiting. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.